Today on CityCast Chicago, it's the rattiest time of the year in the so-called rattiest city in the country, and that's because summer is when Chicago's rat population just picks up. Josie Cruz is head of rodent control at the city's streets and sanitation department, and she's here to tell us what to do about all these rats. It's Wednesday, June 21st. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Well, first and foremost, good morning, Miss Cruz. How you feeling today?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. I can't say this is the most exciting conversation I've ever had in my life. It fills me with the heebie-jeebies, but Chicagoans need to know about it as we're getting hotter and hotter outside. So I appreciate you making time for CityCast today.
Thank you.
I read a couple of months ago that Chicago has been named the rattiest city in America for the last 8 years. So, Josie, let's start off with this basic question. Why are there so many rats in Chicago?
So I'm going to start with, the fact that the reason we were named, the rattiest city in the country is because it was through Orkin, which is a private pest control. We're a complaint-driven bureau. So we ask people to call in. Anything that gets called into us, we put it in. And so another thing, too, is we're a free service here.
Okay.
So other cities that we've looked into do not have free services, okay? They do not record as we record as much with the 311s. So that is one of the reasons. And, with us, what we really pride ourselves on is that we make a lot of contact with people. So we actually make appointments at our bureau. We make appointments where we'll tell Mrs. Jones that we're coming at 8 o'clock, and the crew will be ringing her bell at 8 o'clock. So that's how we have to, because we can't just go in the alleys and bait, because that's not where we're going to solve the problem. It's talking to people, educating them, and getting into those backyards of theirs.
But again, why are there so many rats in Chicago? What's driving the number of little critters we got running around?
So I tell people that the reason the rats are there in your property or in your area is because there's a food source.
Okay.
So if we cut off the food source, the rats are not going to be looking to be feeding on the gardens, on the bird feeders, on the overflowing garbage cans. That's why we educate. Our motto on our door hangers: if a rat can't feed, the rats can't breed.
Is it as simple as third largest city in America, tons of people, tons of food, so the rats go where the food is?
It's connected to the food. It doesn't matter if you live on the Gold Coast or on the west side or south side, north side. If there's a food source there, the rats are going to be there, okay? And I can bait every single day. I can lay down rodenticide every day. They will not touch my rodenticide if they've got something really good on the side there, like a steak or a hot dog or something. They're going to eat that.
How many rats would you estimate call Chicago home? If we got 2.7 million human beings living in Chicago, how many rats do you think we have living in this city?
I've been asked that question a lot, and I can't just put a number on that, because you might see a rat in the alley, and then that might be the same rat you see later on in the day. So you can't just claim, that, I've seen like 10 rats. It could be the same rat, 2 rats. So I stay away from giving numbers.
I can respect that. It's not as simple as like clipping and tagging dolphins or something and being able to keep track of them. So if we can't estimate the number of rats, can you tell me how many calls related to rats does your office get every single year?
So we could range between 40 to 50, like about 40,000 a year. But remember, there's a lot of those that come in from different sources. Like I said, we're big on 311. I don't hide from 311. We want it in there. If you call, I'm going to put it in.
Hey, I appreciate that. We got to do a rerun for our 311 episode. We did an episode where we figure out what are the things people calling Chicago's 311 the most for. Things like potholes. And of course, rats was up on that list. Do you have a sense of why that gets worse when you get to the summer months?
You know what it is people are out. Okay. People are barbecuing. People are growing the gardens. We are year round. We do not stop in the winter or the fall or the spring. We are all year round we work. And
Mm-hmm.
so in the summer, there's more people out.
Mm-hmm. Can we talk a little bit about Chicago's rat personalities? I always make this joke when I'm doing shows in New York that the rats in New York are fearless. They don't hide. They're on the trains. They'll bum you a cigarette if you need it, right? They'll pick up your piece of pizza. They'll watch your baby for you. They pay taxes, right? They're involved in New York's infrastructure. What about Chicago's rats? Because I will say, while I see them, they're not running the streets with, I guess, the same level of confidence as them New York borough rats are. So what is Chicago's rat personalities?
They always bring up New York. We're two different type of cities.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally different. So we can't compare, how we do our rodent control to the way they do it. But a rat is always going to be fearful of you and me. They're going to run. They're not going to come towards you. They're going to run from you. I mean, I've not yet seen, a rat carrying a pizza or anything like that. I haven't seen any of that stuff, Not to say that there aren't any in the subways, but the rats here will run from you. And they want to be in a quiet spot where people are not bothering them.
I hear that. Can we get into the actual problems with rats? Because if you look around, right, we got pigeons everywhere. People complain about the poop and things like that. But, there doesn't seem to be a pigeon control department. You talk about squirrels. They're allowed to just go do their thing all day. What is the problem with rats?
Well, rats can be a health issue. We have to control them,
How so? Like a health issue? Break that down for me.
Because of the fact that, you don't want them in your yards. You don't want them, scurrying over your property and things like that. You don't want that. They're dirty.
Like, what's the difference for my yard if a squirrel is in it versus a rat?
Well, the same with squirrels. I just, to me, they're in the trees. Our main purpose here is to make sure that we control the rat population and we make sure that we clean everything up.
What's up, Chicago? It's Jacoby on CityCast Chicago. We work to spread the news on all things Chicago, but we want to pass the mic over to you. Do you have a message to spread, a cause, a business, maybe a dope event? CityCast Chicago reaches the locals who care most about what's going on around town. Your ad would reach some of the most engaged human beings in and around Chicago. Our listeners are the first to try new restaurants and venues. They're out and about, they're politically engaged, and they definitely socially active. So get your message out to them right now with an ad right here on CityCast Chicago podcast. Learn more at chicago.citycast.fm/advertise or email us at ads@citycast.fm. I want to stay with this control because you talk about it's hard to even estimate how many we have, but the goal is to control them. How difficult is sort of marrying those two challenges? You don't even know how big the problem is, so it feels like your department is always reacting. How can you be proactive in your department when you don't know just how many rats there are in the city?
Well, we are proactive because we do what's called preventive baiting. So all throughout the year, we're doing areas that we've gone to in the past that we knew there's been problems, and we go back and hit them. One big thing that we do here is we do what's called a door-to-door abatement projects. So if my crew goes to a block and they find out that there's quite a bit of premises on their houses that have issues in their backyards, we go ahead and schedule this door-to-door. We flyer it a day or two ahead of time, and we let people know that we're coming. Someone needs to be at home, and we need to get into your backyards. So with that, that helps tremendously because people didn't know. They thought, the rats are in the alley, and they realized, we found 2 holes in your backyard. But guess what? You've got to cut those weeds down. You got to pick up those logs off the ground. Got to clean up after your dog. And that really nice bird feeder you have there? Put a plate underneath it and clean it up. And stop feeding the squirrels. Don't feed the squirrels because now there's food source for the rats. And at the same time, we go in there and we take a cart survey and we replace all the damaged carts in those alleys, which gets turned into the cart program, and they go in, replace all the damage, and that helps start being able to contain the garbage better.
Got it. We talk a lot about backyards, homeowners. I imagine with a homeowner, if they find rats in their backyard, in their basement, they don't really have someone to call to. So I imagine calling 311 is that first stop. But I live in like a 10-story apartment building. If I see a rat in my apartment or, around the building, I'm probably going to call the landlord. Is there any difference with how you work with sort of people who own their homes versus people who may be calling your office, but they live in like a complex or something?
Right. So what we do is we never say no to anybody, but we go there and we find out what the problem is and we talk to the management company and we let them know that this is what we found, this is the problem. And so we work with them, but they have to hire their own private pest control. Anything that the city doesn't service, we don't go out and just bait it. But we do give you technical assistance and there's times we do courtesy baits. Like
Okay.
we'll go that day and we'll say, this is what that pest control company has to be doing, and we'll assist them with that. It's great when someone could call us and say, thanks, you really helped us out a lot, and the rats are gone. I mean, that is what's awesome about the job. People actually call you back, and say, thank you so much.
Oh, because they're going to call you if the problem's still there. Ain't that the
Yeah,
case?
and they will. Believe me, they
Uh-huh.
will. They'll call and say, you know what, we have to do something different. And that's when we start with the abatement projects.
Do you still get the heebie-jeebies when you see a rat? Does it still do that little tingle, or is it just like seeing a squirrel or a pigeon at this point for you?
You know what? After all this time, I'm not afraid, and I will go ahead and do what I got to do to get rid of that one. But as I tell them, they tease because I'm not good with bugs.
Okay. That's why you stayed in this department. He's like, don't move me over to the
Don't move me
insect
over to
stuff.
bugs because I don't do well.
When I move through the Chicago alleys, Chicago streets, I see those "Don't feed the rat," Target rat sign. And Josie, them things are aggressive. Those rats look demented, like the I Am Legend rats. Like, does that work? The sort of, the scare people, put the target on rats' backs. Has that been effective?
Well, yeah, I don't want to put a real nice rat on the poster, because they're like, don't kill them, no, they have to be like that. But yeah, we like to put those signs up so people are aware. We have the one that's got the different pictures on it of what to do to avoid having rodents in your area. And those are just wonderful posters. Not
Okay.
just the warning ones, but the other ones that we also post.
Do animal rights activists come after you and say, why are you making rats look like this? They are good pets. They're affectionate. They are smart. They've got good memory. Don't you see them moving through the mazes? Do people ever stand up for the rats and say, they deserve to be here just like the rest of us? Or is everybody anti-rat?
There has been in the past,
Mm-hmm.
where people feel that there should be a different way of killing them. But I don't want a rat in my yard. I don't want a rat in my house, and I know you don't. So and I don't think they would want one either. This is what we do. This
Yeah.
is what we do.
Have you ever looked into alternative ways, different ways to manage, deal with rats?
Yeah, we've done several pilot programs. We try them, and if we see it doesn't work, then we move on to the next one.
Let's talk more about tips. What should Chicagoans be doing to help with the rat problem? It's not all on city infrastructure, city workers. What can we be doing every day to assist?
We'll get a phone call and say, you're just not doing enough. We're not, clearing up. And when we go out there, we find that the carts have been damaged. The garbage is outside the cans. They might not have enough garbage cans, so they have to call for one. Just call 311 for that. We ask you, once again, the bird feeders. I love birds too, but you need to make sure that you put the right, bird feeder there with the plate underneath. We ask people pick up after your dog. That is really big. The rat will eat that, okay, and pass up everything else if that's what's sitting there. So it's pick up after your dog. And with the garden, I love vegetable gardens, but you have to make sure that you maintain them. Don't let the tomatoes fall on the ground. Don't let the cherries and all that fall. You got to pick that up. That becomes a food source. So, I mean, that's really crucial. Cut your grass. The rats will feed off the seed of the high weeds and stuff. That's all they need. And we ask them to cut that down. Just maintain it and you'll see there'll be a big difference.
Clean up after yourself. Don't discard food. Make sure your cans are not damaged and are closed. Is there any other tip you want to give people as we get into the summer months? And that means, we're outside more festivals, more outdoor dining. Any other tips you want to give people as the spike picks up?
What's important that we've been finding? People barbecue a lot in their backyards and don't realize that clean off that grease pit at the bottom. That is so important. People think, oh, you know what? I cleaned everything else. Clean that grease pit because they're going to be looking for something and they'll know where that grease pit's at. So clean up that grease pit off the barbecue grills.
Beautiful. Clean up the cookouts in your backyards. Keep public park clean. Keep alleys clear and free. Josie Cruz, thank you for stopping by CityCast Chicago. Truly, you are doing the Lord's work out here. You really are.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Before I let you go, a little bit of news, y'all. The city has received a nearly $7 million grant to construct new monuments, including the long-awaited Chicago Torture Justice Monument for victims of Chicago Police Department torture. Applications to join the 32-person Mayor's Youth Commission are open until July 1st. Any Chicagoans 14 through 19 can apply. You can check for the link in the show notes. Chicago Public Schools has started serving free breakfast and lunches for Chicagoans 18 and under at hundreds of schools throughout the city. To find the closest summer meal location, of course, you can check the link in the show notes. And some good news. Chicago's Pride in the Park is in Grand Park Friday and Saturday before the 52nd Pride Parade kicks off this Sunday at noon at Montrose and Broadway Avenue in Uptown. As always, we appreciate you for listening. Make sure you're reading along with our daily newsletter, Hey Chicago. Subscribe now at chicago.citycast.fm. I'm going to talk to you bright and early tomorrow. Peace. I'm going to do that one more time.